So thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to our session. So just to give a quick introduction, my name is Millie and I am from the NIA team and I'm the Partnerships and Community Executive. So basically just an overview of NIA is we're a social mobility platform and we're aiming to connect underrepresented talent and tech candidates to global organizations and communities. So part of this is that we've launched our new community platform. So you're able to view all of our jobs, our events, our training. And my favorite feature is that you get to talk to the rest of the community and really get to know other people with similar backgrounds and interests. So I will leave the link for that below in the chat and hopefully you get to join. We'd really love to see you there. And just a couple of things before we get started and I pass over. So if you have any questions, Ghita is more than happy for you to just put your hands up or just ask them in the chat and we can go over them. And the recording for this session will be on our community platform, which we'll post shortly after, and also our YouTube channel. But I don't want to take up any more time. So I'll pass over now to Rita, our incredible guest speaker, and she will take you over her introduction and today's topic.
Cool. Thank you, Millie. Hi, everyone. I'm Rita, and today we are going to be digging a little bit more into generative AI. By the way, guys, I don't see the slides. Is it just me or is it shared? Oh, there it is. Cool. Yeah, so I'm Rita. I am a content creator and I'm the founder of TechBible. It's a platform where we help SaaS companies and technology companies raise awareness about their products and develop their technologies further using AI. I'm also the co-founder of Myfinder, which is an AI app that uses computer vision and machine learning to help people with visual impairments navigate through the real world using augmented reality. Yeah, so just in the chat, can you drop a yes or no of whether you've ever used any type of generative AI? Like something like Midjourney, ChatGPT, and all of the others. There's so many right now. Great, great. All right. So first of all, we're going to dig into what is generative AI and how did we get here? So if we go to the next slide, generative AI started all in the 1940s. So some researchers were like, we're fascinated with the human brain and how it works. So what we're going to do is we're going to make some computer models that mimic how the neural network works in its ability to like generate a pattern, recognize a pattern and copy it and write. And for example, on how you recognize if you hear like 2 seconds of a song, you're able to identify where you heard that song, who sang it, get all of the information behind just that snippet of information that you received. So it started all in the 1940s, but it only took us about 70 years to have an actual breakthrough. So the breakthrough didn't happen until 2014, where GANs were introduced. And GANs are generative adversarial networks by this amazing researcher called Ian Godfellow. And he was able to develop a model that creates content, has all of that logic that a human brain has, but is also able to detect whether that logic was created by a computer model or it's an original data piece made by a human. And that was a huge breakthrough because so far we've had like these models that were able to generate content, but we were unable to distinguish between, okay, this is computer generated and this is not. And the reason for why it took us about 70 years to actually get into a breakthrough, the first was computational power. We didn't have GPUs, graphic processing units. We weren't able to train complex models. We also didn't have theoretical foundations. So in order for us to get here, we had to have a lot of mini breakthroughs. Like in the 1980s, we developed this training neural network, and how we even understand the math behind it. We had like a significant breakthrough in the 1980s. Also, data availability. Before, we didn't have much of the internet. Humans were not sharing or creating data much on the web. So there wasn't a centralized place where we could have raw data and public data to train these AIs on. And the last thing is algorithmic innovations. Before GANs were developed in 2014, there has to be so many papers and research papers that were made from other companies and other researchers for him to be able to make that breakthrough, and for us to start developing generative AI models, not just in language, but also in like vision, art, drawing, and video. And after we had the first GAN model, Google picked up on it, and then they created a new technique that was called a deep dream, that utilizes the same technology that Ian had created, but used it to train on visual data and to create images that never existed before. And then after that, in 2018, OpenAI had been working on similar research, and then we had the first GPT-1. That was 5 years ago. Now we have GPT-4. Imagine what we're going to have in like 10 years. Crazy. So yeah, when they started training GPT-1 in 2018, they made significant strides, but they could only make those strides because of us, because they give access to this technology to the whole world. People in different languages, people now in Lithuania, in Spain, in Africa, are using ChatGPT, giving input to ChatGPT, and currently training that AI and many other AIs that OpenAI will create to become more interactive, to get better at understanding us humans, and to get its own neural network to think like a human. So next slide. So simply put, generative AI is a model that can create new and original content, any type of content. It could be data, it could be image, it could be text, it could be music, video now too. So in its simplicity, it mimics a human mind, but the way it works is in a way that a lot more complicated. As you can see, that was the first model of architecture of a transformer model. That was from the original research paper. And the logic behind a generative AI model are really down to 3 main concepts. And whoever here is a software developer is going to be like, shut up. There is not really 3 main concepts to generative AI. It's a lot more complicated than that, but it's like the simplest version to put it, really. So the first one is positional encodings, and that's mostly in language translations and text generation. Positional encodings are used to provide information about the order and the position of the words in a sentence. So, for example, when you give an input to ChatGPT, like the AI knows that it comes before a verb, like is comes after it, or something like that. That's the first basic level of its sequential understanding. Attention is the second concept, and that's like human attention. It prioritizes certain information while processing and understanding something. So in a natural language processing model and neural network, it allows a model to like weigh the importance of different elements in your input. So if you give it a question, it will know that this is what the question really is about. It's about these 2 words. So in the theme of this webinar, it's like, is generative AI after your job? It's going to pick up on job and generative AI as like the most important words, just like we do when we communicate daily. And then self-attention is like the 3rd layer of how it understands what you're trying to tell it. And it's by calculating the importance of each position in your sentence, in the input that you gave it, and compares it to all of the other positions of the other words in the input. So for example, if there's like two similar words like right and right, it would understand whether you're telling it like right as the direction or whether the information is right. So that's the concept of self-attention. So these are the like simplified 3 layers of architecture that a generative AI model kind of has. And we focus mainly on language models in here because I feel like everyone knows about them, and it's just, yeah, kind of, it's easier to put into frame what the input is. Next slide. And by the way, feel free to ask any questions while I'm talking. I will stop and answer them. So what can these models do? This is a very like short list of what a model, like a generative AI model, can do. And as you can see, in some of them, like image synthesis or storytelling and narrative generation, interior design, product design, you can already pick that some of these jobs are being currently done by humans. Simulation and scenario generation, poetry, branding, augmented reality and virtual reality. Like, this is the kind of tasks that all of us, and we know people who currently do them. Next slide. But before we dive in, is it actually really your job or not? I want to go through the good stuff. Like, what has AI brought us? What are some of the contributions that AI has done? And I'm going to let my AI clone tell you a little bit about it.
In the last 3 years, generative AI has made significant strides, revolutionizing various aspects of human life. From creating realistic images and videos to enhancing human creativity, generative AI has opened up new opportunities and possibilities that were once thought to be beyond our reach.
That is so not how she speaks, but it was fine. I think the internet kind of slows her down. So that's Rita V2, as we call it. But she's basically a generative AI model. There was actually multiple AI models that contributed to the creation of this. The first one is the one we gave it my footage to so that it can generate a lifelike version of me. Then can we go back? The second generative AI model that was involved.
In the last 3 years, generative AI
All right, cool. Yeah, so the first one was a video model that was given a lot of footage from my part, which took about like half a day to film, from different angles to get the perfect like positioning of how I talk, how I move my mouth, how I speak. We also did some gestures, which are not included in here because they were terrible. And the second one was the voice model. So the one that was given my recording of my voice, and then was able to regenerate some of the way the way I speak, my tones in different words and letters and vowels. And then the last one was the actual copy in that text. I did not write that. I did not tell it to say that. That was completely AI generated. I just gave it the question. I was like, okay, this slide needs to be about what were your contributions in the last 3 years. And you should tell it to these people in a webinar, and it made that. So yeah, video and audio and text, generative AI models came together to create that one piece of content. So you would guess like the first kind of action that has been revolutionized in this last 3 years is content creation. you are able these days to clone someone's voice using generative AI immediately, but you can just upload about maybe 2 minutes of them talking and then have the same voice, and you can make them say anything you want. Next slide. And some of the other good stuff, well, the big good stuff that we're getting off of this is we could see Tom Hanks, even after he dies, be in movies still. One of the big ways AI is being used today is in Hollywood. You are able, for example, in voice dubbing, they're able to translate one single movie with having the actor's lips move within the movie in the language it was translated in. You can recreate actors, especially the ones who have passed away, just because there's so much footage, so much data of them is available that we are able to recreate their personas. You can also chat with them. My little sister loves this new AI tool called Character. It's all over TikTok if you guys are into the platform. And you're able to just give a prompt as what character do you want to talk to, whether they're dead or alive, and it will recreate that persona and have them chat with you. The second best thing, well, it should be the first, really. The world's best AI scientist is an AI. There has been a large amount of contributions lately, from medical imaging and diagnosis, drug discovery. It has been used these days to enhance image quality, for example, reconstructing or remaking missing data or corrupted data for scientists. It helps them with the diagnosis of various conditions, especially for doctors. And it assists radiologists in making more accurate assessments and improving their patient care. One of the news articles actually, it's an actual research that was done where they gave on about 187 doctors a questionnaire and asked them to rate this person. They didn't tell them it was an AI, just rate how this person is handling the care of this patient. And all of the doctors rated their answers as like the best performing. They thought it was a trained nurse. It was ChatGPT talking to a patient, disclosing to them their condition, what they can do about it, what the help that they might need. So it was quite surprising to see that even people in the medical field being very supportive of the advances of generative AI. The other thing is AI could be taking us to Mars. It is already taking us to Mars and helping with space exploration. I mean, SpaceX uses a huge amount of generative AI to recreate the patterns in which previous explorers have been through in space, recreating the imagery around it to make it more real, either for training or for potential decision making. Something that would not be possible. It would take someone to create that kind of virtual reality scene months to be able to create like a frame. With generative AI, they're able to do that within weeks. The other thing is enhancement of computer graphics and design processes. There are so many new techniques that have been born using ChatGPT that enable us to do more like realistic rendering, 3D modeling, texture synthesis, scene generations, which I was just talking about. It just makes it a lot easier to create visually appealing content for people in animation, gaming, and virtual reality. And fraud detection. Banks use generative AI a lot more to process data that needed someone to do manually, or they had like very complex processes. Now they can just train a model on pre-existing data with corrective information and really well labeled information about this is wrong, this is what fraud is, and the AI is able to identify that across large data sets, and saves a lot of time. I'm just checking if there are any questions. All right, next. So yeah, the big question, the reason why we are all here, will AI take our jobs? Next slide. Yes, it might for some of us. And OpenAI has released a lot of research around this. A lot of companies have been, and research companies have been really going deep into trying to answer this question. Next slide. But the problem is AI is improving super fast. Like especially in the last 2 to 3 years, we are unable to say, okay, this is the jobs that will be 100%. Oh, we are able to say roughly, but we are not able to say, okay, this is what the jobs that will replace the ones that are being removed right now. If you can see, as you can see on this one, the text scores of AI that are relative to human performance before, in the 2000s, even in 2010, it was kind of low. Humans always performed better, but starting 2014, that kind of changed, especially in hand recognition, speech recognition, image recognition, language understanding. And one of the latest research papers I read was about developments and programming, and AI also surpassed a human in a test for a couple of languages like JavaScript, Python, and C++. Yeah, so it is changing super fast. Next. And of course, it's hitting tech really hard. Before, in the last 5 years, we've had high expenses in developing software. Software engineers were the highest paid. It's really expensive to get storage, and cloud costs are huge, especially if you want to have some AI in your product, or you're developing something that has a lot of data, which most SaaS products do. But lately, with generative AI, that can generate code, they can solve problems, they can help developers work a lot faster and increase their productivity. The costs of that are going a lot lower, and you can see that not because of the recent tech layoffs that we've seen. That was mostly because of how unstable and lack of planning that we've had throughout COVID, and the major uplift that we've had, and now it's getting a little bit back to normal. But also, most of these companies are refocusing their efforts on retraining their developers, either to increase the ones that have been with them for most time, either to increase their productivity, and then have them use AI to generate more features, or fully integrate AI products within their products and not rely on any developers. Next slide. The low exposure jobs, and this is according to OpenAI's research, are jobs in manufacturing, agriculture, mining, hospitality, and sports. And I think that the analogy that they made is in the 1980s, before we even had any interest in developing computational models that are able to replace human creativity or the human thought pattern, these are kind of the jobs that were the most important in society, that contributed to the industrial revolutions, and they require a lot of human energy. And we're kind of going back to that by having AI do all of the things that we're able to do in today's jobs. High exposure jobs are in the next slide. Yeah, mostly accounting, finance, any jobs that have that need a lot of information processing, programming as well, writing, of course, because most of the models developed now are language models, and mostly jobs that are super repetitive. They kind of require a college degree because we have so much content on the web about what we have been being educated so far. Because that information exists, it can easily be transferred and trained to a language model, a generative AI model, which puts the people who've been to college through a lot of troubles. I don't know if you guys seen as well, but it was in the news that they had the GPT-4 take the medical exam in the US, and it passed with flying colors. So yeah, I think next slide. Yeah, even more stats of the latest research. That's like 6 of workers would have at least 10% of their work impacted by GPT technology only. So this slide was done just from the research on GPT-4 and the other versions. And 2 workers will have 50% of their work tasks impacted by GPT over the next 5 years. That was the kind of duration they picked for this research. Next. Pretty dark. Now that I say it out loud. The not so good stuff. So yeah, what's been going on with AI? I mean, all of the good stuff, of course, is great. It's been super positive and a lot of contributions to our society, but there has been a lot of negatives happening as well. Next slide. Also pretty dark and gloomy, but there has been a lot of ethical risks. First, with all of the layoffs that it's been causing, because a lot of the companies are finding it a lot easier to just automate, adopt more AI in their product, and basically just remove any admin jobs that could be easily automated, or yeah. And also with the ethical problems it has when it's communicating with a human. OpenAI is trying its best to limit how the AI interacts with us, but there's only so much they can control, because it's been open to so many of us. They can't really track or measure the person's emotional state they are in when they're talking to these AIs. There is no regulation about it. So I don't even think that they're thinking about this. They're thinking about gathering as much information and training their AIs. They're really not thinking about what the emotional state of a 14-year-old is going to be when they start conversation about how they can get back their girlfriend or something. And that causes a lot of problems. Like this man who recently ended his life because the chatbot told him that, it would stop climate change, and really convinced him about that. Or the fact that none of our data really that we give to GPT is actually private. It's being trained. It might come up in some other and used by some other models, but it's really not private. It's being used for a purpose, and we are not really benefiting out of it. And at the moment, I'm going to answer a question from Mary. Do you think it might be possible to forge data for scientific papers? I manufacture data for, yes, definitely. For smoothing out noise, yes, definitely, it's possible. There are some tools out there that are also, yeah, I forgot to mention that earlier, but the reason why tech is at risk the most at the moment is also because we've been living in an open source lifestyle as software developers for the last years. All of the code, most of the code of the big projects or the major research has been out there open source with its data sets. So it's natural that the first generative AI models come off from where there is most of the richness of the data and most of the code. And that's why it's been really, really good at programming. And yes, it's very possible to forge data for scientific papers. I'm not sure it's I'm not sure if it's like, I know companies do it. I've never seen a case yet of a research paper that's being accused of having forged data or manufactured data. But I've seen research papers that use it as a methodology for training on something that's the data of it doesn't exist. If you, for example, there are some companies who need specific images of, for example, objects. This is one of the methods I actually used when I was developing the app, my app before. We needed many photos of objects put in different lighting positions, in different places, under tables, on top of tables, in different settings. And we needed to train our AI to recognize that that's the object. And we didn't have all that information. I would have literally had to ask all of my friends and family to go take pictures of these objects in order for me to have a really good working model. So we just generated and manufactured the data based on a sample that we had of maybe 20 photos, but we got out of it 10,000 photos. So yes, it's very much possible. Next slide. Yeah, so also the number of AI incidents and controversies have increased 26 times since 2012. The last one that I think most of us saw was the deep fake of a president surrendering. This was during really tense times between Ukraine and Russia, and somebody trained on the footage of Ukraine's president, and they made an announcement, and it was on YouTube, and actually governments believed it, news outlets believed it, because they hadn't seen how good that deepfake was, until someone ran it through another AI model that could tell them that that's a deepfake. So the irony of that is that we have to train an AI to be as good at recognizing the best AIs. Yep. And there are so many of other cases like this that you can see on the AI database. So how can you stay a little bit ahead of the game, or at least manage through these waters? So some of the other good news is that the number of AI related jobs have been increasing. I couldn't find any UK data, but we got some US data. It did increase to 1.9% in 2022, and I would assume it's even higher in 2023. And companies are looking for people who can operate AI tools, who can use them, who can automate, who can generate with AI, because everyone wants them in their products. Yeah, and next slide. So what you can do, whatever job you're in, whether it's in high exposure or low exposure, it's really important to just continue learning about what's going on in the world of AI. Every time there is a model that's coming out, literally there's every week a new model that's coming out, either from Google. They just announced their Bard and their Lambda, and they're just, every company is trying to compete by releasing new AI models, and they're all really good, and they're good at specific things. And it would be great that if you are also aware of what these models can do, try to automate your tasks. One of the first things I tried to do when I got into this back in COVID, because I had a lot more time and just wanted to get into AI, is I try to automate what I do. For example, having replicated myself, for example, for content creation, means that sometimes I don't have the capability, or I'm sick, I can't create videos. So I'll just get the avatar to create them for me, and I have pieces of content that are out there. I will also use, for example, Zapier to extract specific information that I want from the web, or get ChatGPT to answer for that. And I have like ready emails that are personalized that I can send. And there are so many ways in which you can save time and increase your productivity and automate some things that you're doing on a daily basis. And please feel free to drop some in the chat, and I'll be happy to give solutions. So that's what I do actually when I create content, is I tell people how to use these tools to automate specific tasks. Yeah, use AI tools and seek cross-disciplinary collaborations. If you're interested in 2 topics or more, let's say I'm a software engineer that's interested in basketball, combining them is the best way for you to optimize these AI tools, but also as to uplift your profile. For example, I'll start coding virtual reality scenes of a basketball game and put those in my portfolio, or create a game logic, something that's completely different, using some of my skills, but also combining something that I love. Upskill or reskill. Yeah, either really get good at a couple of things, say it's a language or it's a tool, like for example, being an architect, a cloud architect, that's kind of really hard for AI to do at the moment, or completely reskilling, moving to a different industry, yeah, moving away from low exposure jobs. And the most important one is getting better at prompt writing. There are so many new jobs like this that are popping up that I've been hearing a lot about, and people are making crazy money off of these, like an AI prompt engineer. Like, come on, you just have to be really good at structuring. It's like beating the AI at its own logic by giving it what it needs to prioritize, to think about, giving it like the attention it needs in specific words in a sequence that they understand, so that it can give you the best output. And you don't really need any background in tech. You just need maybe to understand how the architecture of it works, and maybe have a little bit of experience with prompting. And that's it. There are even prompt marketplaces these days that you can go buy prompts for specific things. It's called Promptify. Please go check it out. It's crazy. People sell prompts for like $2. Yeah, anyway. Next slide. Yeah, some tools to, oh, there it is, Promptify. Tools to optimize your prompts. And these are some of the tools that I use on a daily basis to just do some crazy stuff like Descript. Yeah, please let me know in the chat if you know any of these or if you use them, but they're crazy. Descript is a content editing and creation tool. It just helps you edit, like you just delete the text and the video is cut, the audio is cut with the text. It also helps you dub over it, so you can clone your voice immediately on their web app and then fill in the blanks. Synthesia is the tool that I created my avatar with. Jasper, I love it for writing all the copy. Wizard, it creates amazing designs. Like you just draw in a paper what you want, and you take a picture of that paper and you just give it and just upload it to Wizard, and then it will create the actual design for you. It's amazing. And TLDV, which is like my lovely AI assistant, which records all of your meetings, and it allows you to search within a meeting. Say, for example, when was this sentence said, or when we talked about, like, I don't know, LinkedIn ads in that meeting, it will give you all of the mentions in all of your meetings for the past month of where you talked about LinkedIn ads with this specific person. It's insane. It also summarizes the meetings into notes and all of that. Yeah, runaway, text to video generation. If we go back to the first slide, that image that was in the background, that video that was roaming, that was made with Runaway. It's actually just a footage of one person, and we gave it multiple prompts, like, I don't know, recreate this person as if they were a Greek god or something, and then it just kept regenerating that same video but in different themes, which is amazing. I saw a question come up. Hi, Violet. Can you use AI to update e-commerce shopping sites? You have a bunch of products you have to sell, the time of release. How would you handle that information, upload the product in the e-commerce platform? Well, this one, what platform are you using? Is it Shopify? This one doesn't need much AI. You could, there are specific automation tools like Zapier who can automatically update whenever you, like if you have all of your products in an Excel sheet, for example, in a Google sheet, have the automation as if when you, oh, okay. Yep, you can do it without the use of AI. Just link up different platforms like Google Sheets, Zapier linked to Shopify or whatever platform. And every time you enter a product in your Google Sheet, you just fill in the information, upload the pictures in the Google Drive. It will be automatically added into your Shopify store or into the store. When you're selecting tools and where to start a business, or for example, which tools to use, it's great to see the integrations that they have. If they're not integrated with other advanced platforms, it's not easy to automate much with them. Yeah, I hope that answered your question. Oh my God, is this like 45 minutes exactly? Next slide. Yeah, thank you so much. If you have any questions, feel free to drop me an email or ask me here in the chat. Also, check out my page on TikTok and YouTube. It's called TechBible. And I always share about the latest AI tech, the latest tools, and how can people from different jobs, but mostly in tech, use them. And cheers.
Thank you so much, Ghita. I've just put all your socials in the chat, so hopefully everyone can go and take a look. You have like amazing content, so I really recommend. I just have one question. So I'm really new to AI, so I was kind of wondering how businesses could kind of balance using AI to like help employees get through their work, but also not replace their jobs in a sense.
I think there is a it depends on the focus of the business. Like some CEOs would be, oh my God, if like a new AI model comes out, immediately they're like, I can eliminate that job, that's it. We're just going to integrate it, and the other one's it's gone. But others are more like, oh, how about we train our team to use these tools, and then they can be productive, so we can focus our time on other things that are creative or developing new products or new features. So in huge corporations like Meta, Google, and all of the others, they are all about efficiency and cutting. So they are about integrating easily and firing. But I found in smaller organizations, it's all about upskilling the person. And I also noticed that people who have resistance to not using these tools just tend to like not be at risk the most. It really comes from the person. Like it's not, if it makes me do my job better and I can get it done like 4 hours instead of 8 hours and not work for the rest of the day, like, come on, that's an amazing opportunity. Don't even need to tell my business about it. Like, just
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. I think that's all we have time for today. I don't want to run over and make everyone late for anything they've got to go to. But thank you so much for joining us. It's honestly incredible to have you here. And hopefully people reach out to you for your socials, and then we can just post a recording as well.
Perfect. Amazing. I hope that was of value for you guys today. Yeah.